Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this regular Newmarket School Board meeting on May 7th, 2026. And we will start, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. And at this time, I will open the floor for any public comment of residents to offer up to 3 minutes on agenda item. And I will close public comment at 5:16. Next up, public correspondence. If any members of the board receive any public correspondence? Mhm. Alright. Committee updates.
We had the policy committee update. Can you hear me? Is this echoing? Oh, Um, and Liz and I are on the policy committee, and we heard from just Jason about the technology, the updated technology BYOD policy for teachers, and we'll be speaking to that further down the agenda.
The PD meeting did not. That's right. All right. And typically, next up is our student representative report. Sawyer Hill is actually competing a meet right now, so we will hear from him his update at the next regular meeting. And then moving on to our superintendent report.
But thank you.
Strat.
Thank you. I did want to just start by thanking everybody for your kindness. Obviously, I was unable to be at last meeting, and I appreciate everybody's understanding from my absence. But I did get a chance to watch the video, and Patty did a bang up job, so I feel good about that. I wanted to kind of open with some what I consider to be some good news, and actually, since Jason's here tonight, I wanted to give him a shout out. Jason and I have been invited to serve on to be a panelist at the 2026 Primex Cybersecurity Summit. It's in November. It actually, I get to kind of tag along on Jason's coattails because he and his department have been the ones doing the work, but it's going to be an opportunity for Newmarket to kind of share the great work we've done with the state. Um, uh, um, the gentleman from Primex that has invited us to join this conference was just acknowledging that there are a small number of districts in the state that are really taking cybersecurity very seriously, and Newmarket is one of the leaders in that. So I thought that was wonderful news, and I'm looking forward to being on a panel and nodding my head a lot as Jason talks. um, I did want to talk a little bit about school care. Some of you may have seen there was school care has been in the news with the Dover school system. What happened was as you may recall, there was an assessment that school care did, $30 million divided over 90 entities that were served by them. All but one, Dover, paid the additional assessment. Dover actually took legal action, and they did get granted an injunction to prevent school care from stopping paying on their insurance. But it doesn't resolve the issue. That isn't about whether or not Dover has to pay the assessment. It's a matter of whether school care can leverage employee health coverage to leverage the Dover to pay it. The issue of how they will pay it. Oh, are we good, Tim? Okay. The issue of how they will pay it is still to be resolved. And I'm told that it's entirely likely they will be still required to pay it, It's just that school care can't use we will not cover your people after May 1st as a leverage point. So that's the only thing that's happened. Everything that's been in the paper about it, just so you know, is pretty much from the perspective of the lawyers that represented Dover. And as you can imagine, they have a perspective that is clearly they believe they're in the right. Um, but again, pooled insurance coverage is a thing that all of us contribute to. And I think it is entirely likely that ultimately they will pay the assessment. I would point out they have decided to leave school care for next year. They've actually gone with a private payer plan. So I did include in my superintendent notes just a link for all of you to see if you want to a letter that was sent out from school care, kind of giving their perspective on things. And clearly, you'll see their perspective is different than what the Dover School System is saying. Um, enough said on that. Um, this year has been the first year that New Hampshire had a cell phone ban for all public schools. And it was interesting. Last week, there was a study released that was done out of Stanford, Duke, University of Michigan, and Penn over a 5-year period to all schools that had done cell phone bans because it's New Hampshire's kind of late to the game, to be honest. Um, but it was interesting that the findings were not what you would have expected. I mean, one thing that is pretty obvious, the findings found that when you ban cell phones, kids use cell phones less. So that is absolutely true. That we can verify. But all the other benefits that people are hoping to eventually see have not manifested themselves yet. Um, the the big one that the academic opportunity, academic growth and assessment tests going up. There's been no known change to that. Um, and one of the other things that they did note, which I was talking with Erica McNeil the other day about this. Interestingly, in the years immediately following cell phone bans, discipline problems increased in schools that did have it. We haven't actually seen that here in Newmarket, I'll be honest with you. But one of the things that they found was issues increased, and managing kids was different because I think there was a certain element of when a kid is on their device, they're not necessarily interacting, and there are more social challenges. Anyway, I think the jury is still out as to whether eventually the cell phone bans will result in academic growth. But I think anecdotally and based on this, I mean, clearly having kids less engaged in technology, more involved in social interactions, I think we all intuitively know there's a positive to be gained there. But it was interesting that the study did not confirm what everybody was expecting to see of like, significant academic growth and significant reduction in social issues and that kind of stuff. It just kind of shifted the playing field, I guess you could say. So anyway, if you're interested, you can Google it. It's a New York Times did a great story on it. It highlights the big findings of it. But anyway, so that I did want to also talk a little bit about seconds. Um, I do want to just say a couple of quick words about the legislative work that's going on. I was at a superintendent's meeting. It seems like many of our board meetings, I'm at a superintendent's meeting the morning before. And I'll be honest with you, I did walk away with some concern about some of the legislation that is currently being bandied about in the legislature. And I'm not going to get into a lot of details because we talked about many of these things. Open enrollment remains alive, but it's just coming back in a different form. There's some expansion of EFA opportunities that might have a negative impact. But the one that I think concerns me most immediately is the potential that a statewide tax cap. So basically, it looks like a bill will pass that will require all municipalities and school districts this November to have a vote on a tax cap. And the tax cap is very prescriptive in terms of what it means. It's tied into the various cost of living indexes. Right now, it's around 2.5%. And if you can imagine, if we were required to adhere to that level of a tax cap, again, our community would vote on it, but it would be something that we would have a limited opportunity to educate people about. And so it is entirely possible that a bill gets signed into law and we have to deal with it in this fall, which would, given the timing of the vote, we've already developed our budget by November. It would cause us to have to, I don't know, develop two budgets maybe at the same time. So anyway, it's concerning. I'm going to keep my eyes on it, but I just wanted to throw that out to you because it does have the potential to impact financial management of the district.
Do you know how much it has to pass by? Is it like a 2/3, or is it a simple majority? Um,
I believe it's a simple majority. And basically the idea is every 2 years you have to have the vote. So it never stops. You keep having to bring it back. Um, all right. So again, I could go on for a long time on legislation, but I'm not going to because there's so much happening in Concord.
Here's my list.
And I'm sure uh, Kathy can bring me up to speak. I did want to just because again I wasn't here at last meeting, so I wanted to say out loud what I understand you decided regarding our meeting schedule. We agreed that the June 4th meeting will start at 4:30 to accommodate the awards assembly at 6 o'clock in the gym, um, and that we will have one meeting in July, and that will be on July 16th. And then starting in August, we'll go back to our first and third Thursday of the month pattern. I did also want to throw in, starting June 18th, we will probably move our meetings into the library because there is air conditioning in there. And by that point of the year, air conditioning will be useful. So did I get that right so that I can move forward with hosting all those meetings? Okay, great. No, all of that made sense to me. All that made sense to me. So thank you very much.
I also have a lot of thoughts about the legislation, but I did want to go back to the more positive news and just say that I agree that about you and Jason going to the panel being a reflection on the work that Jason and the tech team have done. Um, Newmarket is in a really great place, just as somebody who spends time in other communities. Um, the PD that the staff, administrators, para, teachers get related to security and technology is not only ahead of so many places, but also just speaking around in town or in other towns, the idea of um, the tech free days and having a plan
Mhm.
for potential where that may be needed is something that I think there are some other places that when they heard about that started to think like, okay, we need to probably develop a similar type of plan for our units. So I think we are, while New Hampshire might be behind in some aspects, I think that we, Newmarket, are ahead. So,
I 100% agree.
all right, next up, more good things. We have uh, um, eighth grade teacher Zoe Swalje and student Brianna Wu to share with us about what's happening in middle school.
There we go. Check, check.
All right.
Thank you for your patience.
Good evening, school board members and members of our community. Today, Miss Walter and I will be sharing about some recent news going on in our middle school. First, our entire student council went to the Stratum SPCA to volunteer. We sorted toys and donations, had a tour of the facility, and got to play with kittens. Miss Walter said it was surprising none of us came home with a new family member. We were thankful to have parent volunteers to drive us there and pick us up. We also fundraised supplies and collected money for the SPCA throughout the middle school. Next, we planned a March Madness Spirit Week, which ended with a spirit rally. We made tie-dyes for anyone in the middle school who did not own one. They were very popular and kids still continue to wear them. The seventh grade were the reigning champions. Our junior senior but yeah, yeah.
Some of our themes that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our junior senior high school put on an amazing production of Shrek the Musical on April 10th through 12th. Everyone was blown away by the talent. We painted kindness rocks with encouraging messages and then walked to the elementary school to leave them around the playground and front entrance. We hope they put smiles on the faces of the kids. The day before break, we hosted an ice cream social for the middle school. We also took orders from the staff and made Sunday deliveries. Students and staff appreciated it. The Junior National Honor Society hosted a Fun Friday event the day before break as well. Middle school staff all ran events and the kids signed up for them. The most popular events were Name That Tune, board games, and volleyball. Yeah, that was the picture on the right is Play-Doh making. Our final event of the year was our bake sale. We received many donations from our middle school families and raised over $200. Our funds are used for both student and staff events towards activities throughout the year. We are grateful for all the support we've received.
Brianna, what grade are you?
I'm in 8th grade.
Sorry, you're in the spirit week.
Yeah, our grades never won.
Can we put in order for tie-dye shirts next year?
Yeah. I have a seventh grader at home and care about my hair and staircase all the time about how they are reigning champions. Like,
Yeah.
it's a great way to your spirit. I may have destroyed a ceiling and a floor in the Swall J home in the tie dye, like wringing out process. So yes to next year, but not bringing them home to dry. Just throwing that out there. Okay. Any questions about us for?
I have a
our
comment and a
council?
question, actually. My comment is about being at Newberry Farms and somebody giving me a kindness rock, and I don't know if it's from, uh, but then I passed it on to another elementary school child who happens to be friends with my children. So it is spreading. And then can you go back to the one that's in the gym with the ball pit?
Yes. So
What's happening there?
So Adam, oh my goodness, Adam Durkee, he's our health teacher. He runs the spirit rallies for us, which is very nice. He just does it out of the joy and love of doing all of it. So he comes up with all these activities, and that he loves rubber duckies, and he hides like multiple sizes. So they're digging for those. I'm trying to see what else we had there. He did like a crazy elephant thing where they like put, I don't know, pantyhose on the head and they used to like knock over water bottles. Lots of, again, like, yeah, oh yeah, the relay races. So lots of competition. And I think that was like a don't let the ball hit the, like, yeah, yeah, the top right. Like, don't let it hit the floor. But yes, the seventh grade rocked it. They really did.
The real estate is that in the gym, I think. Yes, I don't go to the gym. Clearly.
Then for both the Fall Spirit Rally and this one, we assign each grade a color for that Friday. So, and it's really fun because I sit by grades. You get to see all the colors for breast cancer in October. We did black, white, and pink, and that looked really cool too. And then back to the Spirit Rocks, we actually painted them in the fall as well and walked downtown with them. So that also could be one of ours, or it could have been an elementary one that made its way. So either way, it's paying it forward, and we love that.
Amazing presentation. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We love hearing from students, but I was saying to Brianna before the meeting that it's we don't hear as much always from the middle school and elementary school, so it's extra exciting for us.
You're also going to talk this about your outside.
We are, and I was going to shout out Brianna because she came earlier this year and she came now, and her partner could not come, and she was just so willing and excited to come and present in front of all of you. So I needed to shout her out for a minute. Mom seemed to watch, which is very nice. And then they're going to the track meet. All right, so this one we're doing together. The other one was really hard. I did not bring my glasses. So I'm going to do my best here. We did a little picture of us because we knew we were going to be sharing. I was like, "Come on, Brianna, we need our our moment." So we took a picture of the playbill and us posing. So on April 1st, 45 eighth graders traveled to Citizens Opera House in Boston, Massachusetts to watch the musical The Outsiders. This was an optional field trip, and we were thrilled to get two-thirds of our grade to attend. We had just finished a novel study of the classic novel by S.E. Hinton, and we were very excited to have this opportunity. And just a side note, because I've taught this book many, many years, all of my current, they're ninth graders, but were my eighth graders last year, were so mad. They're like, "Why did we get to go?" And I was like, "We don't, pick the shows that come to Boston." I was like, "We just got so lucky with our timing." They didn't really understand that. I was like,
Maybe you need to ask next time.
And here are some pictures of the theaters and our student. And this is a picture of our chaperone.
we probably had just as much fun as the kids, maybe more. Somehow I roped Clayton Jocks, if any of your kids have had him. He was a science high school teacher, and we had an extra ticket and needed an extra spot. And I was like, "Hey, want to come?" And he said, "Unless this is an April Fool's joke." He's like, "I'd love to come." So he hopped in at the last minute. We have Miss Bailey Dolliff and we have Malsbury also on my team. So I was, "Come on, guys, we gotta do the picture." So we basically I asked a lot of the kids, most of them that came, if they could just write some comments on their sticky notes. So you can read these. I'll just throw out a few highlights. But the effects made it feel like I was actually there. It pulled me in and I couldn't look away. Best musical experience, totally recommend. Very expressive, beautiful show. I had a student who'd never been to Boston, and the whole way in on the bus, she was like, "I've never been to Boston. I'm so excited." Like it was so cute. The Outsiders musical is one of the best I've ever seen. The actors were amazing, so was the choreography and set design. So again, there's a whole other side of these, but they were so excited. I was like, "Write something on a sticky note," and they like really did a nice job with it. I thought it was a very inspiring and entertaining show. It was full of talented actors and great writing. I could tell everyone worked very hard on the production. All in all, it was a fun field trip. It portrayed the book very well, and I liked how the flashbangs and performative dances added to the story. I feel like these are so good that it looks like I like Chat GPT, but I swear you were there. They literally wrote these things, and it was just wonderful to like see them. And it was a late night; they were going to be tired. We all knew this, but they were so excited. I said, "When I say come here at 3:30," every one of them was here at 3. They were like knocking down the door, ready to go. So it was just felt so lucky that we got that opportunity. And then I got a ton of emails from parents. We got back a little later than expected, so I just took the time to really email them and thank them because I know I'm a working parent myself, and I know what it takes to I would not wanna pick a kid up at 11:15 at night, to be honest, but they were so appreciative. I mean, you can also look at these, but they just reached out to say how much they loved it and thanked me for organizing and all the really nice things that they had to say about it. So one's looking for more shows to go to. So again, it just made me feel really happy that I was able to do this for the kids and for their families.
We we also made a Venn diagram to hang in the hallway where the students compared and contrasted the musical and the novel.
That was optional, but they were so excited about it. Like, that was really fun to do.
And if people haven't seen it or read it, it's a spoiler about Pony Boy up there.
Oh, yeah.
On it.
Yeah, I hope you all get
Shout that out to everybody.
I
As a
hope
teacher,
you all
doesn't
read
this make you so happy?
in junior high like I did, so hopefully this is not a spoiler for anyone at home. Sorry, go read The Outsider. And then just our priority standard, we really did get to tie it in, which was wonderful to like in action do this. So that was very So we just wanted to give a special shout out. We appreciate you all to approve it and so quickly that we're able to do this, Mr. Allen included. Dr. Corman had said he would come. He still has young children, so that was like a huge win, but we got Mr. Jacques. NSEP gave us a very generous grant, which also helped us to do this at a low cost. We were able, because we fundraise as a grade and the grant, we were able to charge each student just $20 for, I think it was like $65 tickets by the end. You know, they tell you they'll give you the cheap cheap, but by the time you do it, it's not what it is. So we were just so happy that we are able to go. So that was huge. Our chaperones are probably still tired. And then our 45 eighth grade students who are well behaved and very excited to go see a Broadway musical in Boston. And again, our eighth grade families, it was a late midweek pickup. So we appreciated that too because they can't go. Kids can't go. Their parents can't pick them up. So again, it was just such a great opportunity for all of us, and we're really grateful we had it. Thank you. Any questions about our musical?
I was gonna ask if it stayed true to the book, but that was clearly outlined in the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
That just made me so happy as a teacher.
I like loved it as a musical. I'm a huge theater buff. My son's an actor, all these things. But like I read it too many times and I didn't like how much they changed it. So it was like I loved the experience, but I was a little mad. I'm like, you can't change it. You can't. I'm not the right person to have. Did you enjoy it? Yeah. For people to walk away and feel like the book was better is never a bad thing. Right.
Okay.
And just seeing the kids, like we sat with them and just watching their expression. Some of them were quote lines, you know, just to have that in action. Thank
I think in addition to the musical, the whole experience, the fact that um, kids were able to go into a city that they may not have been to or may not have an opportunity like that to go to a Broadway musical in the city like that. Um, it just gave them like a life experience that was even beyond the priority standard, which you definitely nailed. So congratulations.
And if I could also just say, you can't tell, Ms. Swalje is a ball of energy and she brings an incredible energy to teaching. And I think all the wonderful things you've heard told about largely the efforts of Zoe to make these things happen. And obviously great kids like Brianna who take advantage of them. But thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Mr. Carey, you get to follow that. With Jason Carey to talk about the new policy, the first read of the bring your own device for staff.
All right. Cool. First, I wanted to start out with some good news from a couple meetings ago. I came and presented, or I guess asked for permission to recycle some old IT equipment to the tune of $100, I think is what we thought we were getting back. And heard from Austin a week ago, and we're getting $2,075. So much, much better and worth all the worth all that effort. Yeah, still not great, but better than $100. So staff BYOD. First, I'll go through really the purpose of the policy, what the policy allows and doesn't allow, and then just the impact we expect the policy to have throughout the organization. So, first one is clear and consistent staff device expectations. Right now, we do not have a staff BYOD policy, so this will help set that. Um, couple maybe beginning of the year, I had a teacher asking to bring in a printer, and I said, "Well, we don't allow that." And she said, "Hey, where in the policy does it say we can't bring in a printer?" So now we'll have a policy with that language as well as some other devices. So the answers that folks are looking for. The other big purpose is protecting student and staff data, making sure we're not using personal devices to access things like our student information system, where data could be downloaded onto a personal device, and then we lose all control of that. Aligning with existing student BYOD policy, again, we're covered with students, and we have been for probably 2 years now. I think last year we adopted one when the cell phone bell-to-bell ban came into effect. So
I
that
think
gives us
we
minimum.
revised it when the cell phone ban came into effect, but I think we'd already adopted it before that happened.
Actually, that's true. Yeah, so it had been in place, tweaked it a little bit. Um, Reduce cybersecurity and legal risk. Again, making sure we're keeping our data on our equipment and align with recommendations from some assessments we've done. We've had some federal organization in here to conduct a ransomware readiness assessment. And one of their recommendations was, hey, start getting the personal equipment out of here or limit it in governance. So that will help with that. Reinforce staff members' modeling of appropriate technology use. So right now we're telling our students with the cell phone ban, don't be on your cell phone during the day. The policy language here for the staff BYODs mimics that. It says, hey, be smart. You can use your phone, you can connect it, but don't be in front of it in your classroom in front of kids when they're not allowed to. Something that I've had to train myself to do right in the hallway. And then consolidate practices that we're already doing now, right? We allow BYOD, but it's not officially governed. So this policy satisfies that. Some of the things that this policy allows and doesn't allow, it allows staff to bring in personal phones and tablets. So Android, iOS, um, but it does prohibit them bringing in a personal laptop. Again, we spend a lot of money each year making sure staff have updated devices, and we want them using those devices when accessing our information systems. And it allows them to get on an internet only network. So, this is one of the major security improvements that their devices are going to live on their own network away from our devices, away from our server systems, printers. And it's really I guess a convenience. They can get on, get to the internet, and you probably notice cell service in all the buildings or most schools is poor. So this allows them to stay in touch with their families throughout the day. Um, Again, limits personal use during just to breaks or personal time, not during the classroom in front of students. And there's no complicated approval process. It's going to be a network. They'll connect to our single wireless network, which we're moving to. And with their own credentials, they're going to get automatically placed in that secure network. So should be pain free, although we're still tweaking that. We got Todd on today. And it went pretty smooth, but um, so the policy does not allow work-related tasks on personal devices. Again, we want to keep staff from working on their personal devices, bringing them in. Accessing student records or confidential district information from personal devices. Syncing district email, calendars, and files to personal devices. Again, I already mentioned this. Not allowing personal laptops or workstations in. We're already providing them with some and personal device use in front of students. We covered that. So now to the impacts of the policy, it's going to be minimal for day to day. They're really going to be on a different network. They can access now, and they'll just be segregated. Um, Formalizes existing expectations and practices, and helps maintain strong cybersecurity posture. Again, with the isolation from our devices, protects staff from liability tied to personal device usage, and overall protecting students, supporting staff, maintaining secure and responsible technology practices throughout the district. Any questions?
Can you just talk a little bit about the Clear Pass um, system?
Yeah. So ClearPass, I think it was back in September, I came and said, hey, we need some additional licensing, professional services to get ClearPass rolled out. And it's been several months. The vendor we were working with was, I guess, difficult to keep things moving in a timely manner. So we finally got to the point where everything's designed, built out on the network to where my team can start actually rolling it out. And we have most of the high school done. All of our student devices already moved over. We did the SAU office today, and then we'll move to the elementary school next. So we should have everyone move to the new network by the end of May. That's the goal. And then sometime this summer, we'll shut down our old wireless networks and move to this new network that's a lot more secure than what we had been doing. So, and all of it's automated. So we're going to have one network, and depending on what device you're using and what roles you have, whether a staff member, a student, a visitor, you join the network, and ClearPass does all the role assignments. So you go where you need to go. Visitors will be on a separate network. Uh, Same with students, staff. So, so we're getting there. Took a little longer than expected, but
Well, Jason and I were talking earlier today, particularly about the cyber summit that he and I are participating in. But one of the things that I think Jason has done a really good job of is talking these things through. So there's no question that there will be people who will not be excited about having this in place, but the logic for doing it is to make our system more secure. And I think people understand it. And it's easier to accept something that might be a mild inconvenience if you know it's going to bring us to a safer, more secure place. And ultimately, as Jason points out, the goal is to make sure all of our student and all personal information is protected. And so going back to like the idea of making sure people use their district issued devices to do grades and that kind of thing, it's really important. And I think in the world we're in, unfortunately, it isn't a good idea for people to be on a personal device, accessing student information systems that might get corrupted. So all of this, Jason and his team have done a great job throughout this, like really the last couple of years, just messaging to people regularly, getting in front of staffs regularly, providing training regularly, so that nothing is surprising people. And I think that's where this is sort of like the logical next step, to move things along.
yeah, this will be a big one. And one point I forgot to mention was when the cell phone ban came out a year ago. Was it the beginning of this year?
It was a beginning. Yeah, it was over the summer, last summer. So we had to put it in place with like 6 week
Yeah.
notice.
So a lot of districts said, you know what, this is our opportunity to squash BYOD, and we're not going to allow anyone to bring a device in. We took a different approach where we said, you know what, we're going to allow it. Again, there's poor cell service here. People want to be able to get in touch with their families while they're here. So we understood that and felt we came up with a great secure compromise to still allow it.
I had a question when Todd you brought up grading and whatnot on the district issued devices. Can teachers bring those home?
Yes.
Are there any concerns about them being on a home network that is not secure?
Yeah. I mean, as soon as a device leaves here, it's and that's some of the training we provide them to let them know, your home network, and you can segregate a home network like we do here, but it's the average person's probably not going to be able to do that. Some of the cybersecurity training we do, they'll come in here and say, yeah, if you can at home, do a work network, do a network for your child's device. So, which isn't very practical, but um, our equipment has strong.
Because they will be the cost of something like a Z-scale VPN system. Right?
Probably expensive, but
I mean, because I work from home most of the time. I certainly have not segregated my network, but we
sure,
have a VPN, Z-scale. We have to go through so
it,
it slows
it's
things down.
it seems like anything new, anytime we look at adding a product to our security stack, it's $10,000 to $20,000. Um, in which we've been doing a great job of. We'll add something every year, but it there's usually a pretty good cost there. We do have well, we do have endpoint protection on all of our equipment, so at least when it's offsite, if they're on our equipment, it's probably going to be more secure than a personal device. So, but yeah, as soon as
Yeah.
something leaves here, it's scary.
I was just thinking, it's like we have this ultra protection here
Right?
for the student information. And then I was informed a few months ago, I think it was at a PD meeting that Patty Wand was explaining about a USB drive. She's like, "Oh, well, you never plug it into the wall at a hotel." What?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I just think, you know,
Well,
I consider myself to be a
Yeah.
pretty
Right. Well, I
tech-savvy
would say one of the things that has been happening is there's lots of things you can probably do technically to make things more secure, but security is only as good as the people who are utilizing it. It's like use our school security system. If we block our doors open with a rock,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in all this security if we're not keeping the doors locked. So you still come down to no matter what you do, it comes down to a place where human behavior is what's going to drive how secure you are. And one of the things that we've really done a lot of in the last couple of years is putting training in front of our staffs and like what you described about the risks of plugging into like at the airport or in a rental car. In fact, I was on vacation last week and I said to my wife, no, when we get out of this car, you make sure to wipe your information off there. Do not leave it, So it's like you start to realize that there's a lot of places that information gets shared and you just need to guard against it. And I think you can't we're not going to be able to build the Fort Knox of cybersecurity, but we can keep people trained and we can do everything we can to make it safe. Because ultimately, I don't think it would be very well received if we said, no, you can't do work at home,
Mm.
because a lot of teachers do a lot of work at home and I appreciate that.
It might also be worth pointing out. I mean, a lot of the stuff that teachers are going to be doing from home is stuff that they're logging into a separate system for. It's not. It doesn't live with us.
Right.
They're
Mm.
logging into grading system or maybe some other thing. And so, I- it seems like there would probably be very few people that would be logging into anything from home that would be directly accessing like the school's electronic
Sure.
records of any.
But if something
Right.
gets on your network from your home laptop, your personal laptop, it's on your network and you connect it to something.
Right. That's
But-
obviously.
But I mean, you're right. There's a
Yeah.
point of diminishing returns we need to consider. Those 20,000 for a VPN, that would be really cheap money if there was a ransomware attack or something. Well, I do think in fact, Jason and I were talking about this this today because we were just talking about what might we talk about at this cyber summit. And one of the things we were saying is a lot of school districts balk at the idea of doing it because they automatically jump to it's really expensive and all these things. And one of the things that's been incredibly powerful for us is that Jason has sought out and found lots of free tools and resources that we've been able to bring in. And those free resources have connected us with things that, yes, we've made some strategic decisions like ClearPass and a few other things. But what we've tried to do is take it one step at a time. Okay, when we're ready for it, okay, and maybe that is the next layer. I would think that's the question. I cannot believe I didn't know that. That was a really
But
surprised you didn't know about the USB thing, but hey, I
Yep.
let that go.
Well, now I know. Now I'm not plugging it into anything.
we're definitely, I think we hit a milestone with the awareness training because we do the trainings and no one ever complained. In the last one that we did, people were kind of they were kind of talking about it after, and I said, you know what, they're at the point where they know this, so it's definitely having an effect. Um, Even today, we had a phishing email come in, and we happened to be in the business office, and the person that received it had already picked up the phone and called Teresa and said, "Hey, did you request this?" So there's systems in place, and they're
great.
following them. Yeah, it's
amazing.
great to
Yeah.
see it. We see more tickets. We got a ticket right away on that, so
We have
it's
big
impressive.
phishing emails sent to us periodically. That's the I will admit I fell for one. I did a really good record and then I fell for one a couple months ago. So I was so upset.
It
But
Yeah.
it can happen, right?
yeah,
Um,
it was just a bad time. Like I happened to try something and I happened to get an email like same thing.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, it's just well, one of the things that we have learned from our trainings around cybersecurity is the people who are doing these cyber attacks are very aware of the ebb and flow of the workday, and they time things for like 4 o'clock on a Friday or something where you're like, I'm in a hurry to get out of the office. I don't have time for this. Oh, okay, I'll answer that email. And they know what they're doing, and I think that sense of awareness at vulnerable times is really the key. Yeah.
I just want to thank you because I think that the key thing behind this is that I like I as a teacher myself, it's really convenient to check their email on
Sure.
their phone or something, but it sounds like staff realize that this is just not safe. So it's, making sure that they're secure and kids are secure, and then maybe liberating staff a little. They don't have to respond to every email as
Sure.
Felix comes in. So
Hmm. Any other questions on BYOD?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Put together a great.
how are you going to spend the not $100, the 2,000 something?
The windfall.
We never see even the E-rate money. It just goes back in the.
It goes to the general
It
fund.
doesn't go to
So
technology.
it goes back to the taxpayer. There we go.
Yeah. It all.
When we see a big screen, fancy monitor, and
We have one in there. We take care of our stuff. All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
We get cheeky and then I forget where I am. General assurances,
General assurance.
just as exciting.
Yes. Let me do a quick. I want to do a walk down memory lane. Last year, you may recall that we had there were two types of assurances that we were required to do last year. The general assurances, which is what we have in front of us. This is it's been done. It's a standard. And basically, what general assurances are for is we accept grant money, and it's the district saying we will follow good accounting practices. We will follow all state and federal laws. We will, basically use the money as it's intended, and make sure that if we can't use it, it gets returned, and we understand all the rules of that. Last year, the Trump administration got started, and you may recall there was a lot of uh, kerfuffle around federal grants, and there was a thing known as the Title VI assurances. And I remember being here at the table, and I said to you, I plugged my nose and I signed it because nothing that was in it was anything we were going to do, but it left us all with that sense of this is gross. Nobody felt good about it. I didn't feel good about it. Those have gone away. So the Title VI assurances are gone. But I did want to highlight for you, if you go in the document here that's attached to the agenda, you go to page 3 of the document, it goes to number 6. It talks about the subrecipients. You can get there. That does go through all laws, and you will see that it does highlight Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. We've always been required to promise to follow Title VI. That's not a new thing. But Title VI being pulled out last year and done in a way to basically be diversity, equity, inclusion. That's basically what was happening. But we are still agreeing that we're going to follow those. And I do want to highlight one other piece, which is, give me a second. Oh, yeah, the last one, K. The requirements of any other statute, administrative rule, executive order, um, dear colleague letter, or non-regulatory guidance which may apply to the application. What that basically means is the federal government is responsible for regulating and policing grants. And if I can't control for what executive orders might come down, basically last year's Title VI assurances came from an executive order. So basically what it's saying is you're agreeing to follow the rules. You're going to, and I promise you, we are very, very careful with our grants. I just want to assure people of that. But we are, by signing this, we're agreeing to follow the rules and follow the law. And some of the rules in the law could come down the road that we don't even know yet. But if they get enacted by an act of the Congress or an executive order or something like that, we still have to follow. So I just wanted to highlight that. So the reason why this is on the agenda is every year the board has to officially say, Todd, in this case, Lonnie, please sign this on behalf of the Newmarket School District and submit it so that we can then start spending our federal money. And this would be starting with 26.
And yeah, and one of very few bold parts of that where it just says if you don't, you'll get none of your grant money if you keep signed an initial.
And I will just highlight this year in particular, just to give you an idea of what we're anticipating in grant money. We got about 310,000 that's IDEA money from special education. We get about 160,000 for Title I. We get about 40,000 for Title II and about 20,000 for Title IV. And then we have also received that Safe and Supportive School Grant, which actually comes through same grant system. And we're getting somewhere in they haven't given us the exact number, but like $213,000. So we're talking somewhere around 600 plus $1,000 in federal money that we benefit from. Are there any questions about the general assurances?
So all of these stipulations, like I'm looking at the gun possession, that only involves the grant money.
It basically what it says is when in the utilization of the grant funds that you're accepting, you agree to follow all of these laws.
Okay.
By the way, most of the things I would argue
Already do.
we're already doing
Yeah.
because it's the right thing to do. 'Cause
Yeah.
most laws are for good reasons.
Sure.
Um, but it does specifically highlight federal grant monies. And I would point out just because it's been in the news a lot in the last couple of years, there's multiple districts facing significant financial challenges, and it's because of their at least partly because of their mismanagement of federal grant funds. I not want to throw Claremont under the bus, but
No.
they spent money they didn't have
Right.
because they didn't account for it properly. ESSER monies, a lot of districts given big amounts of money. And if you didn't follow the rules and you went ahead and spent it anyway,
Mhm.
when the bill came due, there was no money there. So anyway, so yeah, we follow it for everything,
Yeah.
but this is specific to federal grant.
So is that 12 month suspension pretty across the board under the gun possession?
Yeah.
And you're the subrecipient.
So I would sign and then Lonnie would sign on behalf of and
I
yes,
guess
we have
it
additional 47.
sounds like common sense, but just in case it's not, I mean, safe to assume an executive order gets signed that they say applies to a school and it's completely out of bounds. We can tell on the face of it that it doesn't have really any legal basis. That would be something that we could say to ourselves probably does not apply to the application. Right. I mean, we would like,
Well, and we could also determine at that point, okay, we're not going to use these funds anymore because of what it means.
Yep.
Again, it would be a financial hardship to not be using the money because we're building a budget without those revenues included. But at any point, we can just stop spending and whatever doesn't get spent gets turned back to the feds at the end of the grant.
And this is like a combination of a lot of different.
This is pretty much the same thing that we've done uh, as long as I've been involved in
Yeah,
grants management.
okay.
There's a general assurances on the front end
Yeah.
that it's really the intent of it is to make sure everybody knows what the rules are and that we officially say, yes, if we take this money, we will follow the rules. That's really what it's based on. And unfortunately, I do think there's some skepticism with some of the federal agencies, and I think that's what causes us all to be
Yeah. Yeah.
nervous. 5 years ago, nobody felt that way.
Questions, comments? Todd and I will. Assign.
Spend a half a day signing the. No.
perfect.
Yeah. I don't have my stamp yet. All right. MOUs with Newmarket PD. So this was something that we had talked a little bit about last meeting. Shouldn't say last week, a few weeks ago. When Patty was taking Todd's place, and so we did have some discussion and some questions, and um, Todd was gonna talk a little bit more. And
So I did review the video, so I did hear what you guys were talking about, and in particular on the MOU regarding the police officers in the school. Jeff, you had some questions about the indemnification thing, and I did review it with Chief Jordan, just because I wanted to make sure I was interpreting it the same way he was interpreting it. If you look at the page that is on, which is the Yes.
It's on page 1, I think.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I was on page 3 looking for it, so no, no, okay. So, so if you look on that page where there's, there's 2 bullets there. The one that I think Jeff was asking about, it says the SRO as an employee of the Newmarket Police Department is indemnified for loss or damage arising out of either intentional and negligent acts or omissions. And then I want to highlight the one right after it because I'm going to talk about them sort of in conjunction with each other. The Newmarket Police Department will assume its own liability incurred to any third party which performing the duties of the SRO. So the way that is interpreted by certainly by myself and by Chief Jordan is the SRO role is multifaceted. So they are a police officer. So if they are a situation and a crime takes place in front of a school, they immediately go into police officer mode and they enforce the law. So there is that piece. And by us engaging in the agreement to have them, we are saying, yeah, we want a police officer in our school. So there's that role. The truth is, though, a lot of the role of the SRO is not in the law enforcement side of it. And in fact, I would argue the value to schools is in the resource officer side. So things like if we have a child who is had some behavioral challenges and we think it might be helpful for them to develop a relationship with the SRO to help right the ship, if you will, or um, an issue comes up in school that the principal is trying to navigate and needs some guidance from police in terms of how would you interpret this. So there's a lot that they do in the form of just supporting whatever it is that the school needs. So the provision about uh, it talks about the liability incurred for the so if a Rich McFadden is acting as a police officer and he is doing something in his role as a police officer, it's covered by the law. Police officers have uh, um, uh, legal responsibilities, and the liability protection comes through that. They are also functioning as a school person. So, for example, if you ask the SRO, can you give me some advice on something? And the advice turns out to be not good, and we act on it. Basically, it's the same thing that would happen if you turn to a math teacher and said, "Hey, can you give me some advice?" And they give you bad advice. There is an indemnification of all of us that we're acting in our role in the school, and because we're kind of splitting, it's a two-piece responsibility. Those two things kind of work together. Um, In fact, if you look later on in what my contract, which we'll talk about later on, there's a place where I'm indemnified, not specifically for neglect, but there's an indemnification clause that protects me in the event that I'm doing something in the course of my job. Um, the other thing to keep in mind is any employee is subject to all of our personnel policies and so forth. So, person acting unethically or inappropriately is going to be dealt with in some disciplinary fashion, either as an SRO, the police department, but also could be. I'm sorry, Chief Jordan. This person can no longer work in our school because of X, Y, or Z. Thankfully, we do have great relationships with both our SROs. They're wonderful people, and we have a great police department. But I do think when you get into signing legal documents, you just need to think about what do those things mean. So I don't know, Jeff, does that address that, or you have other
It
questions?
does. It still leaves me with a little discomfort, and I guess to kind of paint a picture, as crude as it might be, if you walked into school one day, even with your indemnification clause that you have in your contract, and you discharge a weapon, you're probably still going to go talk to the police and have to answer for that.
Yep.
The indemnification clause isn't going to do anything to protect you in that regard
Correct.
because there are limits to those sorts of things. And we know amongst ourselves that it's important to have those limits because if someone comes in here and does something to harm one of our kids, we
Absolutely.
want them to be held accountable. We want them to be held accountable individually, not at an organization. If someone Bernie Madoff's at their organization and they can have all the indemnity that they want, but they're still going to be held personally responsible for that major error
Right,
that they
right.
committed, right? And so I worry about having a gun in the school, period. Right? I think a school is a place where we should be a gun-free zone. I think the police station is right next to us, so the police can be here with all the guns that they need to be here with as soon as they need to be. And if we're going to have someone in school with a gun, that all automatically feels less safe than a school with zero gun. So giving someone indemnification against having potentially using that weapon and doing something that can harm one of our kids, and just saying that we'll go through the police and they'll, handle it through the way that police always do, which is, the insurance or the taxpayers end
Mhm.
up, cover it. Whatever it ends up being, it's if an officer were to somehow come in here and harm one of our kids, I just feel like it would be irresponsible for us to say they have indemnification, so we're not going to do anything. We signed documents. And I feel like if our only option is to accept this or not accept it, I'm much more comfortable not having a gun in our school than I am having a gun in our school and having someone indemnified against me.
But again, I think that's where I would go back to having the weapon on their person, which is part of the police equipment, that the standard issue for Newmarket. That would be in the realm of their police duty. So just like if they're out on the street and something happens, the same level of legal responsibility would be there. Um, so the fact that they're in the school, I don't want to. I'm not a person who's comfortable with guns being around either. So I will just acknowledge that I have my own. I've never been a gun person, so I feel that. Um, but the in terms of the legal responsibility and how it would be acted upon, once you're a police officer and once you're acting in that role, and the gun and the equipment is that's the police role. um, that is covered by all the same things that would happen in any circumstance, whether it's on Main Street or anywhere. And yes, I mean certainly we can engage in a conversation with the police department as to whether or not they would entertain the idea of not having guns in the school. That has not been how we've managed it in recent years. But I think I don't think police functioning with a weapon changes when they come through the door, other than we have a responsibility as running a school, is we're saying, yeah, we're asking you to come in here as in your police role. And so the agreement is us welcoming the police department into our school, partly in a police role. And in this case, that involves the carrying of a weapon, which again, we can have some conversation with the police department about. When I talked to Chief Jordan, I said, I clearly there was some discussion here. I did indicate him, would he be willing to come to a meeting and maybe have these conversations with them? But I don't want to do anything that's gonna make people uncomfortable. So he's expressed a willingness to come in and talk these things through if people want to do that.
I presume our legal counsel should be seems comfortable with determining that.
Yeah, and you were asking about, when you were talking about rocks and using the gun, were you talking about in a defense mode or offense?
People practice on this. I mean, that's not to say the officers that we
But-
have right now will, but that doesn't mean that it's the same officers that we're going to be dealing with tomorrow. And it just feels like
But wouldn't that come under other things other than indemnification? I mean, I don't, would the officer, wouldn't he be liable, or, if he did, or she, um, act other than the role of SRO, wouldn't they be held accountable just like a teacher would be, or somebody else if they didn't, if it was outside the purview of their job?
I presume that would be up to the defense attorneys to argue.
Yeah.
And they would use every bit of language they could use
Yeah.
to try and make their case, which
Right.
is why I feel uncomfortable with
Yeah.
having someone carry a gun in our school where there are other people who could try and overtake someone with a gun and take a gun from them. It's just I've got a lot of discomfort around a gun being in here, and then around us saying that if someone does something with said weapon. That
To put this in different context, if Todd, who has the same language in his contract, was to go get a can of soup out of the kitchen, bash me over the head with it, I don't think that indemnification would preclude him from being charged in as under the law.
he doesn't carry around a can of soup to use as a
Right.
weapon.
But it doesn't matter what the vehicle is, right?
But
So
I
there's
think
But it's
there's
not
two
part of
there's,
his work outfit, is what I mean. Like, it's not part of something that he's outfitted with every day to go to work.
but there's two different conversations, right? There's whether indemnification is precluding someone from being prosecuted, and whether you're comfortable with a weapon. I think there's two separate topics, and I don't think the analogy of a can is any different than a weapon in the context of indemnifying someone. So it doesn't say you're indemnified because it's part of your normal work uniform, right? You're talking about whether indemnifying someone from an act, either intentional or negligent or act or omission.
So, all right, let's go through this here. The SRO is indemnified for loss or damage arising out of either intentional or negligent acts or omissions.
But it doesn't say in the course of being a police officer. It just in general, this is the person and this is they're indemnified.
As an employee of the Newmarket
Uh,
Police Department, so it does imply that it's related to them.
But
their
Todd's
employment
Todd
with
has
the
a
police.
thing in his contract that says as part of the Newmarket School, he's indemnified from damage, right? So
Right,
Yes,
and part
yeah.
of Todd's work uniform is not a can of soup to be wielded as a weapon. Though. So I'm failing to see the connection.
because it's about the indemnification statement as opposed to and whether or not they can be charged with
I think
it.
they
It,
are two separate pieces.
Yeah.
I think
it's whether you want
that
a gun
one
or
of them
split
though,
separate.
but they're but the severity of
Oh,
the
sure,
weapon at hand
absolutely.
obviously changes.
Okay, a meat
the-
cleaver or
But I just think
whatever, right? Or if you brought in a weapon from home, yeah, the vehicle might be different, but the indemnification is really what we're talking about. If you want to talk about weapons in schools, that's a separate conversation. And we can certainly have that. But I think we need to separate this contract really says.
The legal idea of indemnification is on the assumption that you're acting in a capacity that is in the realm of whatever function you're having. So like to use using myself as an example, you're absolutely right. I do not carry a gun, have no desire to carry a gun. But the indemnification that I'm provided operates on a baseline assumption that I am I have a scope of duties to perform, and I'm acting within that, and I'm making judgments, and that there may be times when my judgment may be flawed, and it could result in something negative. I do try very hard not to make judgments that cause, but the possibility exists there. So indemnification is a legal concept that starts from the premise that you have a role to play. You're protected from actions in that role that might result in negative consequences.
Okay,
I
then
mean,
I'll
go
like
ahead.
clearly I misunderstood. And yeah, I think you're right, Jeff, that it does somewhat play in the context of it. And
Yeah.
whether an SRO would as part of their job have used a weapon compared to yeah, I mean I guess they wouldn't because it would be a police officer at that time, which is a different role.
Right, and I think to some extent, I think what Jeff is talking about is risk management versus
Yeah.
indemnification. It's more like is there a higher level of risk by having opportunity weapon versus not?
and I
Which
think the
which is a different
consequences of you
conversation.
making a poor decision, intentionally or not, maybe are less impactful in that very severe physical way
But
than somebody else making.
Right.
You know,
I mean, as Todd was pointing out, and I think I understand it now, that his capacity of an SRO would never be inclusive of using a weapon or handcuffs or a baton because that's a police function as opposed to an SRO function, which is to liaise with the police department and the school to provide support with the kids, be a source of advice, actions like that,
Right. That's why I think it's so,
with or without a
the,
candidacy.
the role of an SRO is kind of a unique function because they're living in two worlds. And I think, in fact, if you go back years ago when DARE programs first were coming out, a lot of people were uncomfortable with that because they thought it was like scared straightish kind of things, and there was a desire to not have police because if they function purely in a law enforcement manner, it's like the fear is that they're um, taking advantage of vulnerable situations and turning something that wouldn't be a criminal matter into a criminal matter. So there was a lot of pushback on the idea of police in schools. And I think to some extent, and I've lived in multiple different uh, school systems, and to some extent, it really comes down to the relationship we have with your local police department. And I there is a trust element, there's a risk element. There's not an absolute right or an absolute wrong answer. But we do have a very positive, good relationship with our police department. It's worked very well for as long as I've been here, and I'm told it's been a long time that it's worked well. So it may be as simple as a conversation with our local police departments to how we can manage this in a way that makes us all comfortable. Um, it's not. So I would suggest one of two possibilities. I could invite Chief Jordan to come to the next meeting and have some more conversation about it, or I can certainly engage in a conversation with him and also run by legal counsel again about the idea of how essential that provision is in the in the MOU.
But I guess maybe Jeff, do you agree that the SRO work that police officer does is different than police officer duties, and therefore the indemnification wouldn't cover actions that you'd be concerned about?
Say that again.
I don't know if I can. Which are you? Would you be comfortable in that saying that the SRO's job is different than a police officer's job, and therefore the indemnification of his SRO duties is something you're comfortable with?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Which I think we all agree that's what there's that statement says. Well, I don't know. If
Let
we
me see
all
the
agree,
wording.
but that's
Maybe you put that there.
I don't know. I mean, it says the SRO
As an
as
employee.
employee of the police department, but because they're an employee of the police department, I mean, they're just serving like, I guess if the dispatch person was to the dispatch as an officer, as excuse me, as an employee of the police department, indemnified from any poor advice given to someone performing CPR on someone in the same way, right? And they don't
Yep.
obviously have capacity where they carry weapons or anything.
Right.
So is it the actual carrying of the gun into the school that is your concern?
I mean, that's yes,
Okay.
far and away my biggest concern is having a gun in the school at all. Like, we
So-
probably shouldn't have any, and I just the indemnification clause that's in there gives me pause because I feel like a defense attorney would grab onto that and say, "I'm going to find that they're indemnified, and now he's got to fight a whole big thing." Like, obviously, this is a catastrophic. Nobody wants to be there. It's a concern because it's a concern because it's a concern because it's a life altering thing, like anything. These are our kids.
I think that we should do either one or the other or both. With checking to see with legal counsel if that is a necessary clause to be in there. Because if it's not in there, then it can't potentially be used in a way that it's not intended to. But then also invite Chief Jordan to.
Okay. Well, why don't
If you've
I,
heard.
let me follow up with Chief Jordan, have some conversation, follow up with legal counsel again, and just what needs to be there, what is the absolute minimum. And then potentially if Chief Jordan's available, may have him come to the next meeting so we can continue this dialogue.
Or maybe even if it says add in their capacity as SRO,
Mhm.
is indemnified, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay.
Right.
right, and the chief, he's not getting involved in the legal section of it. We would like to be as section around if SRO should. I just want.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too.
Yeah, I just because we feel really separate, and I don't feel like we're asking chief for legal advice.
Right.
Yes, we would
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, the chief has legal advice that he's following because
Right.
this MOU is required of their accreditation as a police department.
I mean, I guess as a board, we need to have a discussion about whether weapons we feel are appropriate for the board. But that's a whole separate, one of that separate conversation. And maybe we should separate it from contractual discussion.
I don't want to muddy the water anymore, and I don't want to move on. I also want to for not being here at our last meeting. I was in DC with students, but the following the school camera policy, just briefly, I was curious if it has ever been, if the dispatch has ever had access, how often that has happened. I don't know if
Basically,
that came up.
basically the way it works is it's probably, it was before my time, but as I understand it, about 5 or 6 years ago, the town and the school district contracted to get security cameras for all facilities. And at that time, the conversation about police access for the purpose of school safety was discussed. So basically, the way this MOU works is they they have login access at the police department, and also both SROs and their offices have access to our campuses. Basically, the way it works is when the day shift comes on duty, they check to make sure the cameras are functioning, and then they log out. They do not have cameras running out of the school all day long. However, if an incident came up at the school that would involve the use of the camera, they have access. In the time that I have been here, there has not been any time, certainly during the school day, where that provision um, came into play. I would
Thank you.
I would tell you the way we also function is, in fact, this happens more regularly. I will get a call from the police. They'll say, "Hey, Saturday night, high speed chase down Main Street or whatever, and can we look at any whatever?" And so every once in a while, they'll ask me. I have to give them official permission to be able to do it, and then they access it. And if anything inside the building, if it particularly as it relates to any student behavior, I would say you need a warrant. You could say, this is not. I'm not handing that over to you. Because that's exactly what we want to. We want people to feel more secure. And Chief Gordon and I talked about that all the time. He's totally, he understands. That's the way.
I think I tried to explain that with the legislative. I just don't think I did it.
And because there is something to keep in mind, because we share spaces with the town, there's some kind of weird, like we own the land on the field out here from the town main field. So people go out and use the fields, thinking it's the town fields, but they pass through the school district parking lots to do it. Saturday, something happens that is not okay. That's they might ask for. But again, anything inside the building, we are 100% in control of that. And the only time they act is would be in the form of a real emergency. And to my knowledge, it would not been like.
Moving on. That's it. Yeah. I'm glad we can have those kinds of discussions.
Yeah.
Here. School board goals.
I'm sorry, so we could vote we could vote on both those MOUs, right?
Not today.
Eventually, but
Eventually,
you don't have to do it tonight. No, again,
If the board was comfortable voting on one or none.
my thought is it would probably make sense just to do them at the same time when we're ready, because it's, and that's fine. again, this came up because Chief Jordan is going through the reaccreditation process with the police department. We asked to review it and reenact these things.
So this is not, it's just a yearly thing that we approve
For 3 years.
every 3 years.
What happened was it lapsed in November of 2025.
Ah.
And so we now need to.
All right. Our goals with the overwhelming amount of feedback I got regarding the goals. Uh, Um, we had a great, actually a great brainstorm of goals at our retreat, and um, just looking at them, how we can make them into perhaps more focused, condensed goals, smart goals. I'm looking at my fellow teacher here with, but I think those are another thing. With yeah, action items. Happy to take some notes and clean them up and put them back out as a second draft.
So you want us to kind of make these more into action items and just brainstorm. We got the goals.
I think so, and I think Gary had said perhaps under the first bullet, continuing efforts to focus on student activities and achievements. Can you contract those, the bullet point underneath with it?
That's what I was thinking.
So,
Like, is that
yeah.
third bullet, if we said a trimester check-in, does that actually accomplish everything else?
Um, and then um, Gary also suggested perhaps combining the second and third, being as they are connected, um, using the alumni survey to kind of continue to um, not only uh, find areas of improvement, but also highlight the things that the achievements that is happening. We have good
So-
news, but postgraduate, current good news, graduation good news, postgraduate good news.
I did kind of briefly, like, reminded of the fact that we're going to do this discussion. Tried to consolidate a tiny bit. So the first one came up with continue efforts to focus on student activities and achievements, including engaging middle school students who via regular participation, determine feasibility of expanding student representation, include the middle school and Newmarket elementary students. What I came up with, I don't know if we every part of SMART goals. It is more concise.
Well, I think it doesn't mean that's necessarily mean those other pieces um, aren't in there.
Yeah, it doesn't
No, I guess.
include us from doing it. Oh, right. Just those are the actual separate statement.
We could just take out the possibly, the possibility, and just engage middle school and elementary school student leaders. And dialogue during school board meetings.
I do think I do like the idea of having the time frame of the training on there to keep us
And it would be very easy to just go to the elementary school ambassadors and say, hey, can you come and give them the 3 months right at the beginning and do the same thing with the middle school?
I think just tonight proves that there's just so much good and so many good things happening, and that we should know about it and town should know about it. And I like the trimester. last.
And then for the second and third items, I combined them or attempted to combine them to expand use of alumni survey to publicize student success and help promote good news of the district. Investigate options like parents growth, broaden the communication reach of the school district. I may have overthink that.
I can get into it. Yeah, I mean, the one that I'm thinking of is, kind of how are we like, are we having our own events? Are we sure we have back to bash, having using our media to do that? Yes, really the avenue. I don't know what that is. Um, and I feel like a lot of those things are kind of, but yeah, I guess investigate avenues too. Not to me. Yeah. Engage them. Not hand out pencils. We tried. I'm sorry that I didn't. I will. I have notes too.
She yelled it all.
I know that PTA has a great social media presence, and the school I work at has recently put up our own school social media out there a lot with images of good things happening in the building. It was tricky. I mean, there's a lot of concerning how much can you share, but it also feels like there's a pretty big following, and it's nice to know that people beyond parents are seeing just thinking parents grabbing social.
One of the things, and again, the elementary age children, but the NESPTA is very good about putting stuff out there and being very consistent and being visible, but it never has any faces, it never has names when they do even that calendar graphic. It's them and their children and people who've already agreed to put their name there versus I think sometimes with school pages on social media, it gets hard because people want to share photos. And I appreciate Laura Basco, if she did Lego Club or something like that, or showing images here. Most often it's of the kids' creations. Uh, so similarly, the PTA just did like a thing on a pop up for merchandise. It's Beer Fair. And yes, it was great to see kids in it, but they send out the picture of it rather than the children. So I mean, we keep circling back. I think every year with our gold and talking about social media, and it tends to be a who would manage it type of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why something like parents would be crucial because it's do one message one place and such time. Multiple. That's good.
Or do we strengthen our relationship with a group that already has that presence and find through
Something
the high school has now their own
Yep.
Facebook page, and do we get what we need to get out through them when they already have?
Well,
Fair.
hypothetical, what if it was the budget cap, right? And we wanted to get information that they feel comfortable kind of broadcasting our message on whether we're for or against the budget cap or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would if there
I'm
ever
thinking
would be
about it
support
more in
for-
terms of
in terms of
sending
good news.
messages
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other stuff we may need to until we find a better way, like with our
It's just hard because I think you want to go beyond the parent. I think there's a much larger
Yeah.
Newmarket
Right.
community
Oh,
that
great
would
point.
benefit so much from hearing about
Yeah.
all the good things
Yeah,
happening.
that's just
Yeah.
That's just true.
which we talk a lot about because it tends to be, unless invited, when we do have people attend who have questions, they tend to not be parents and always family members.
Mhm.
And then they're not here to see when we do have the invited guests. So we really would like to see both sides be involved. I should say sides, both communities be involved in both. Um, and then the last, I wasn't sure if our next topic on the agenda would actually be sort of related to that, the planning.
Can I add just one, but sorry, just
Yep.
one very quick thing back to the goals of the second to last one around changing to a middle school instead of a junior high. And I just was hoping to see if we could find out at the retreat we talked about, this is not just a name change, right? This would be a staffing change and potentially a budget change. And I think it just be helpful to be able to see what that change would look like.
And certainly see how the like current staff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the sub bullet underneath there about complying and changing the name was an internal communication from me to, to you and Todd about that. That the intent of the intent of the goal wasn't that we do it this year, it was that we create the plan and the logistics and the understanding.
Yeah, 'cause I feel, excuse me, I feel pretty strongly that it really needs to originate from the middle school staff. You know, that they're the ones that are gradually sort of making structural changes and so forth, and will be most effective if the educators who are the ones doing it are the ones that are proposing it and leading that charge.
Yeah.
So that they take a while. They're doing a great
Yeah.
job and they're making adjustments. There's only one of the teachers work in the middle school.
Which I think it's fine that it takes a while. And I think it also a goal like that sends our message to the school, the, the middle school team about how much we value them and how much we think it's important to kind of
Yeah.
honor what they're the change that they've really implemented and if we can get their engagement they're comfortable reading it, right? Fantastic.
Might be as simple as inviting a team of middle school teachers to come and specifically talk with the board.
Great idea.
Where are we at with the goals right now? We're still brainstorming. What would you like us?
I think if there's any additional feedback, we wanted to send it to me writing, and then I will work on putting out the second draft. That's more in goal form, in brainstorm. We do the first good draft.
I'll get.
Yeah, you have to record.
All right, some people I maybe leaned on a little more than others.
Right, all right.
Get their feedback. All right.
Looks like we do reading. All those. We'll figure out all this stuff.
All right, discussion of the long range planning subcommittee. Um. Which we had Department Donna come in. Meeting ago.
So just, I did talk with Bart earlier today. What you have, the charge he shared with you, I think it was April 2nd, is when he came in. We gave him some feedback and he brought that back to the planning board, and they did make some changes to it. One of the things I think that came up specifically was we talked about the idea of 3-year terms. And like if you're appointing a board member, well, does that mean you have to be on your first year of your term in order to be appointed, that kind of thing. And so they did make some changes. They changed the terms to 2 years. And I said to him, well, would it be a problem if the school board did, because we typically do 1-year committee assignments, if we potentially maybe had a different person every year, if that would be way it fit out. And he said, I don't think that would be a problem at all. So I think they were very aware of that. I think just in terms of the concept of what they're trying to do here, I think it's very much in tune with the efforts that the Charter Commission talked about, which was efforts to try to be more collaborative as a community. And they're really trying to get this planning process to be more comprehensive. I asked him specifically about the capital improvement committee, and he said, no, that's still going to live in parallel. Um, but that definitely will, this planning group would definitely help inform the capital committee in terms of what they support and what they kind of chart as the course of the meeting. But really what we need to decide tonight is, number one, are we comfortable with participating in this under this charge? And then he did say they were hoping to have the first meeting would probably be in the summer, probably July, August, and then they would be meeting quarterly over the course of the year. And so if we are going to do it, we need to appoint somebody.
It seems much more aligned with the master plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally, I feel comfortable with us participating. I don't know that I can volunteer to be the representative this year, but I do think that, especially since we got clarification that it would mean that we'll have to continue on, even if they weren't on the board, and then be serving and then have a different board or whatnot. We're in line for what your role is, but
Yeah, I agree. I think having a member on is a great idea.
is there anybody who Good. But if you're on the master plan, then this kind of
This would
Oh,
this is
what's that?
kind of a subcommittee of the
Okay.
master
So who's
planning
on the master plan? Anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, um, oh yeah. So I'm on CIP. No, you're on CIP. You're on master plan.
makes them be different.
I think it's the first time they have done it, so I think it's going to be a learning experience in terms of what makes the most sense. I don't know if having a connection to the master plan committee would help or not. Might be overwhelming. I don't know.
We'll all figure out together. Yes.
Quarterly, you said?
Yeah.
Do you know if there's like dates?
Well, I think the intention would be to have their first meeting, like I said, sometime in the summer, July, August, and I think it'd be an organizational meeting where they would determine a meeting cycle, and the idea is to meet quarterly.
Do you know what I need to know? Or-
I don't think there's an imminent need. I think we need to have somebody appointed by the time they have their first organizational meeting, so we're talking July, August.
Do people feel okay with that? If people thought on it, like gave it, you know, read through again what it's going to involve, and then make sure that we appoint somebody before the yeah, I think it would make sense. It's a second meeting. They scheduler way beforehand. So point by 6:18 is the second meeting. Correct. Yep. Minutes. We have school board goals again.
You already talked about.
Done. School events coming up. April 12th, PTA meeting at the elementary school.
May.
May 12th. Oh,
You know, it's funny you did that because when Ellen first made the agenda, she listed them all as April dates. I said, "Hey, Ellen, I think you got last month's dates." She goes, "Oh, whoops, I put them all as April." But they are all, they are.
Printed it out too early. I'm not looking at this one. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't even, it's May 12th, PTA meeting on, it's always on second Tuesday of the month. And again, they did just send something out, a pop-up spirit wear shop. So I know I get, anytime I wear my Newmarket heart red sweatshirt, every time people ask me about it. Oh, what about that? So I don't think it's elementary specific. I think it's Newmarket. School spirit fair. Um, May 13th, early release. That's district wide. May 14th, the elementary school band and chorus spring concert. May 15th, senior prom. And then May 19th, high school band and chorus. And then I'll just throw in there also that the awards are June 4th, which is why we're having a meeting.
And tomorrow is the
Yeah,
baby
they got
festival
turtle.
for all middle school band.
That is.
And it's Turtle Day this Saturday.
Turtle Fest or this Saturday.
I remember that because that was one of the first things that came out last year when I got on the board.
I did not go this year, but last year it was really great. The library did really great activities too.
I was talking with one of the coordinators and she said there's going to be a whole lot of things for kids to do.
All right. And we do have some donations to acknowledge. We have first the donation of a drum set to the music program at the junior senior high school from Sarah Stevens.
The American Heart Association donation for the Pembroke Club for $171.48.
I was just trying to make sure that there were any details that I missed,
No,
that I know about. Oh, and I did miss May 22nd, Newmarket here. And then just for Liz, our new member, we acknowledge any donations that are less than $1,000. We have to approve any donations that are 1,000 and more. Or
I knew you were going to I believe that.
Okay.
1,000.
Sure, I'll stand on it. That's a good idea. Okay. Moving on to action items. Other than we have one extension, but I will take a motion to approve the April 16th, 2026 meeting minutes by Gary,
I'll second.
second by Jeff. Any? All those in favor?
Aye.
With one
One
abstention.
abstention.
Yeah. Okay. Did that one in advance. And whoever is the manifest. Phil, I hope you're watching.
Don't touch the manifest.
Think too.
Okay, I need to approve it. It is the total of the remains is $1,922,839.14.
I'll second and apologize. That normally doesn't happen when you read the manifest. That's the one.
Gonna do it again. My Liz. By Gary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Great. And we have a request to approve a second grade field trip.
Can
to
I just,
Agamark.
can I comment on that? I want, the school board policy says they're supposed to be approved 2 weeks prior. This one's on me. I was not at the meeting on April 16th. Nancy Miller did everything she was supposed to do. I missed it. So the fact that it's only 7 days out, that's me, not Nancy. Nancy's great. So I just want to say that.
They're going to hike Mount A on Thursday, May 14th, with the rain date of Friday, May 15th.
So moved.
Moved by Kathy. Second by Liz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And I will take a motion to approve the general assurances for 2026, 27.
I move we authorize and instruct the chair and superintendent to sign the general assurances for 26, 27.
Second.
Second by Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Approving the new NES counselor.
Yeah, if I could, I have the pleasure of meeting with Yi Fu Han. He's going to be our new elementary school counselor. Some of you who have been around Newmarket for a while may remember him. He was actually a case manager here at Newmarket Junior Senior High back in the mid 2010s. In fact, I was at a conference today, and Chris Andrisky, our former principal here and assistant superintendent, came up to me and goes, "Yeah, I hear you're interviewing Yi Fu. He's amazing. You're gonna love him." So anyway, the committee was very impressed by him. He comes with a tremendous range of background, having worked in all different forms of mental health, special education, and the last 5 years as an elementary school counselor over in Seabrook. So we're really lucky to have him and excited to bring him on board.
I would make a motion that we approve that.
I will second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we do have a request for staff leave for a professional staff one day up and very, very soon. Not have to do that anymore for unpaid leave.
I move that we approve that request.
And I will second it.
Kathy, all those in favor?
Aye.
And we have our superintendent's contract. Try to sneak in here. Not.
I move that we approve it before Todd finds out.
And just assuming that people saw the memo that have the
And just if I could, I mean, this is basically extending my current contract by 1 year.
or not.
Which brings us to 27-20.
Moved by Jeff. Second by Liz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
That was good, but very, very.
You drive a hard bargain, Lonnie. You drive a hard.
Right. I don't believe we have any need for stuff. I will.
So moved.
Moved by Gary,
Seconded.
second by Jack. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourning the meeting